Hi everyone. As you probably noticed, I've been diving into sculptural studies lately, and these are some of the shorts that I created. Now I'm just going to go over it and talk about the tools and my thinking process when I was drawing these. With each sculptural study, I've been challenging myself to approach it differently. The tools that I use the most is the simple round brush with the soft edge, no textures in it. Also, I use the airbrush as well. So when you're using an airbrush, you can always bring the brush size smaller. Then you can get these sharp lines. Also, I like to use it because it gives these gradients. Now, if you look at the left side, I'm using the airbrush. So at this moment, it's just airbrush, no textures at all. What's good about the airbrush is that you get these smooth transitions from light to shadow. Once I get the forms, I know I can add the textures after. So I start with the airbrush. Now, if you look at the right side, it already has some textures in it. And I'm adding more textures to it. So what I'm doing is that I'm overlaying the textures. So it's on a separate layer. And then it's on overlay. Once it's on a separate layer, I can do the adjustments whenever I need. If it is too strong, you can bring the opacity down and then it will read nice. It's always better to create some new brushes for each study so that you know how you're going to use these textures. Then the painting process becomes easier. This way, the workflow becomes smoother and you'll have these juicy brush strokes. In Michelangelo's David, I started with a sketch and then I created this brush where it creates two lines, as you can see. In one edge, it has this feathered effect. I was thinking of like a marker. It's like one of those brushes you create and be like, oh wow, that looks cool. Then I created three other brushes. As you can see, these are the ones. It has different textures and different spacing. So whenever you're doing these studies, it's always good to create new tools. This is like the moment you get to experiment yourself and try different things. So at the start, it will take time, but the more you do it, it gets easier. Also, this is how you create a style. So if I use this brush only and keep drawing like 20, 30 drawings, then you have a unique style for it. And nobody else has his brush, so it's one of a kind, right? What you're seeing on the right side is where I'm experimenting with it. But for this sculpture study, I only use one brush. And I like the way it was coming out, so I didn't want it to add any textures to it. But for the background, I was just putting different brushes and going over it. One of the things that I like to do is whenever I add a texture to the brush, I put the brush setting on height and then I control the depth of it. It has like a charcoal effect. So the more pressure you put, the textures affect differently. It's something you gotta try it out and see. Then you'll understand what I mean. On the next study, I'm using that texture. So this is the texture effect that I was talking about. I'm showing these textures a lot because the more you do, you'll understand where you want the textures to be, where you want to apply the textures. It's more like decision making. So each study will lead to new problems, and then how you're going to solve those problems is the way to improve. Now I just change the lighting, the textures, just to show as an example. Yeah, This is how you can approach these studies. In this study, I started with textures first. I was trying to match closely according to the reference. I was just placing the textures. Right now it looks like it's nothing, but yeah, as you can see, it's coming along. I like this a lot because it made me use different textures. It's all about how you want your textures to look, how things flow. On top of that, you're thinking lighting, shadows, form. Now I'm just following the form. You want these textures to read as if some kind of weathering has happened. This area is a different texture. This is a totally different one. Then this area has another one. A lot of things are happening. Yeah, this way you can just identify the areas that you want to focus on. Core shadows, bounce light, things like that as well. Let's say you want to just add light to the chin and bring it forward. Just need to get a simple airbrush. Then there you go. Just bring it forward. Yeah, and you can push it back as well. You get that gradient that it looks believable, and the control it gives, yeah, it's one of those tools where it never fails, and every program has it. Every computer you go to, default brushes. Yeah. After this, I hope you try this out and see what kind of results you would get. So you need to break it down first, and then identify where the textures are going to be, create your tools, then you do it. At least 5 studies. And you'll create some tools as well. Also, you can use other artist brushes as well and try it out. I hope you like this video. Check out my other videos as well. Thanks.